Hello, my name is Lisa Hutchison, and this is my channel, Lisa Hutchison LMHC. I am a licensed mental health counselor who works with helpers who want to prevent or treat compassion fatigue. Today, I'm here to talk with you about the differences between compassion fatigue, vicarious trauma, and burnout, because there are significant differences between the three. Compassion fatigue occurs when you just care too much or you carry too much psychological material. So I'm going to explain this one. So there is such a thing as having too much empathy for other people. You can absorb and take in way too much feelings, energies, and experience of your clients, friends, or anyone who's in your life. So it's important to have boundaries when you're around other people, especially when you're empathic. Also, you can just carry too much psychological material, which means you may be bringing this stuff home with you, worrying about your patients or friends, clients, and it's interfering with your life. So this type of too much caring, too much empathy can lead to overwhelm and exhaustion. It can actually prevent you from having empathy for other people or even compassion for yourself. And that's when you have compassion fatigue. Vicarious trauma has to deal with you experience a trauma yourself, or you're working with clients who have experienced a trauma and you're hearing about that trauma. Or it could be you're working with so many clients in a day who have had traumatic experiences and you're taking that all in. So when you have vicarious trauma, you can experience the symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder. I'm not going to go through the whole criteria of post-traumatic stress disorder, but I'm going to give you a couple of symptoms that you could have if you have vicarious trauma. You could be having distressing dreams or nightmares about traumatic material. You could also be experiencing flashbacks, which is like watching a movie in your mind as if the trauma is happening in real time, even though it could happen years ago, months ago, days ago. You can also have a tendency to avoid patients or clients because when you're around them, that reminds you of the trauma story. So you may be cutting time short with clients or trying to avoid them so you're not having that experience with them. You may be hypervigilant where you feel like you're on edge. So like you're walking on eggshells or you're waiting for the other shoe to drop. You could have an exaggerated startle response where you're just easily startled by noises or very sensitive to noises. You could have problems concentrating or sleep difficulties. So these are just some of the symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder you could experience if you have vicarious trauma. So remember, for vicarious trauma, there has to be a trauma involved. Either you experienced a trauma or the trauma happened to your clients, but you're hearing about it. Burnout, lastly, is when you just experience emotional exhaustion and physical exhaustion. You have low job satisfaction, feel powerless and overwhelmed at work. It's a subtle process in which you gradually get caught up in mental fatigue and just completely drained of energy. Now, burnout doesn't necessarily indicate you've had a trauma involved or a loss of compassion. It often happens when you just have too much of a workload and not enough support from higher ups in your organization or company. Now, some people change jobs or their line of work and find burnout goes away. This is not necessarily the case with compassion fatigue or vicarious trauma, which may require some type of counseling. Some other types of burnout, which would require counseling, may have more to do with the personality characteristics of the helper. So it could be that you tend to be very perfectionistic and you have to have everything just right. Or you could be overly involved with your patients. You may have thoughts like, I must be available at all times for my patients to be with them, or I must get all my patients better. So in order to decrease or prevent cases of burnout, compassion fatigue, and vicarious trauma, you need to be educated on the signs and symptoms of each and have an open and supportive environment to discuss these at work. If you don't have that type of environment at work, make sure you find a counselor who can listen to your experiences. I want to thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you learned a little bit more about the differences between compassion fatigue, vicarious trauma, and burnout. If you like this video, please give it a like. I'd love to see your comments down below. And subscribe to my channel. This way you can find more videos on psychological topics and also spiritual topics such as the full and new moons. Thank you so much for tuning in, and please take as good care of yourself as you do to others. Thank you.